We just broke a shocking story. There is a rift, and I think that is an understatement of a word, a rift.
I think that that's going to be, probably a game time decision. Anyone that reasonably has information that can be, that can provide evidence in this case is going to be deposed.
For years, Taylor Swift and Blake Lively seemed like the kind of Hollywood best friends no drama could ever touch. Their bond wasn't just about a few cozy Instagram posts or walking a red carpet together once in a while. No, this was a friendship that ran deep, deeper than what most celebrity friendships even dare to reach. Taylor wasn't just a friend, she was family. She was even the godmother to Blake and Ryan Reynolds' kids. A title that didn't just...
Morning, George. This is a big mess for everyone involved. The legal drama playing out in multiple courts now, literally from coast to coast, and all kinds of people close to these stars, from personal trainers to friends like Taylor Swift, finding their names mentioned as part of this ongoing fight.
Just carry weight. It proved just how deeply their lives were intertwined. Fans were obsessed with their dynamic. Blake, the effortlessly cool actress with razor-sharp wit, and Taylor, the chart-topping superstar who turned the most personal moments into cultural touchstones. Together, they felt untouchable, like nothing could ever come between them. But maybe, just maybe, it only seemed that way. But as with all things that shine too bright, the cracks eventually started to show. At first, they were barely noticeable, quiet whispers, strange little moments that just didn't sit right. But slowly, those whispers grew louder. And the turning point, it wasn't some explosive fight or public fallout. No, it was a slow build, a series of
Now you have two sides here, right? So Baldoni says this was all an effort to hijack the film to get her way. Lively claims she was the victim of harassment in a hostile work environment.
Almost invisible shifts that gradually spiraled into a full-blown storm. And right at the heart of it all, a legal mess that had nothing to do with Taylor Swift. At least, not at first, but somehow. Her name, her image, even her emotions got pulled into a controversy she never asked to be part of. The friendship started to fray when Blake Lively found herself in a lawsuit against Justin Baldoni, her co-star and director from the film It Ends With Us. Blake accused him of creating a hostile work environment, among other serious claims. And the backlash? Immediate and brutal, but what no one expected, what absolutely no one could have seen coming, was how Taylor Swift's name would get tangled in this legal mess. As court documents rolled out, so did a series of text messages. And in one of them, Blake referred to Taylor as one of her dragons. At first, it sounded powerful, almost mythical, but the tone quickly shifted. Sources close to Taylor Swift revealed she felt completely blindsided, deeply hurt by being dragged into a legal firestorm that had absolutely nothing to do with her. She wasn't part of the movie. She wasn't involved behind the scenes. Yet there she was, her name stamped across legal documents like she was some kind of power player. In Blake's battle, it wasn't just inconvenient, it was damaging. The lawsuit painted a messy web of alliances and silent power plays. And Taylor? She was cast as a supporting character in a drama she never agreed to be in. And then came the social media bombshell. Taylor's boyfriend, NFL star Travis Kelce, unfollowed Ryan Reynolds on Instagram. The internet exploded. Fans put the pieces together fast. Was it just a coincidence? No one thought so. Ryan had been publicly standing by Blake's side throughout her legal chaos, even as the controversy kept spiraling. So when Travis hit that unfollow button, it wasn't random. It was a message, loud and clear. Taylor wasn't on Blake's side, and neither was he. And just when you thought it couldn't get any worse, new footage dropped. Unedited video from the set of It Ends With Us, released by Justin Baldoni's legal team. The fallout was instant. Blake's public image took a serious hit, and her once rock-solid support system started to crack. But one of the most unexpected twists came from Selena Gomez, Taylor's ride or die, her day one. Insiders say Selena had always been wary of Blake. She allegedly felt something was off. Like Blake was too eager, too strategic. Like she used her bond with Taylor to boost her own status. And now, with Taylor caught in the legal crossfire, Selena's instincts were starting to look painfully accurate. Apparently, Selena wasn't quiet about her concerns either. Sources claim she warned Taylor years ago, told her to be careful, told her not to get too close. But Taylor, ever loyal, brushed it off. Now here she was, her boyfriend making silent moves on Instagram, her name dragged through the mud, and the painful realization settling in. Selena had been right all along. The damage, already done. The betrayal, deep and personal. Blake reportedly reached out. A heartfelt apology, according to insiders. But Taylor wasn't quick to forgive. Not this time. Because for someone who guards her circle so fiercely, who values loyalty, like gold, this hit different. Too much had already happened. Too much had been lost. And now all eyes are on Hollywood's latest firestorm. The legal war between Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni. And the ripple effects still spreading. The public's reaction was nothing short of explosive. Swifties, fiercely, loyal, and always ready to defend their queen, went all in. Social media lit up with theories, memes, and flat-out hate for Blake Lively, painting her as the villain in what now felt like a real-life soap opera. Blake, once Hollywood's golden girl, found herself at the center of a firestorm. And the industry? Oh, it took notice. Quiet whispers started making their way through boardrooms and backlots. Blake was being seen as a liability, not an asset. The once untouchable actress suddenly looked like a risky name for any serious project. But the biggest shock came when Blake and Taylor were spotted together at Beyoncé's London premiere of her Renaissance documentary. On the surface, it looked like business as usual. They smiled, posed for cameras, even exchanged a few words, but fans saw right through it. The body language was stiff, the warmth was gone, and the energy completely off. These weren't two best friends enjoying a glamorous night out. They were two women putting on a performance for the flashbulbs. And that performance, it didn't fool anyone. Meanwhile, the legal case kept heating up. Blake produced a set of text messages, legally obtained through subpoena, that left no room for denial. Justin Baldoni had to admit they were real, but he insisted the context was twisted. Still, the damage was done. The most jaw-dropping part, the repeated mention of Taylor Swift, a woman who had absolutely nothing to do with the lawsuit, yet her name kept surfacing in court filings. In one message, Blake referred to both Taylor and Ryan Reynolds as her dragons. At first, it sounded poetic, but as more messages emerged, it became clear. Blake was using their names like weapons. Power moves to pressure Baldoni behind the scenes. This wasn't just a case of creative differences. According to Baldoni, it was all-out manipulation. He claimed Blake tried to take over the production, using her celebrity connections, Taylor included, to force decisions he never agreed with. One quote stood out, "Hollywood runs on fear." And in that moment, the courtroom went silent, because this wasn't just a messy lawsuit anymore. It had become a high-stakes war, a war over influence, image, and control, with Taylor Swift, unwillingly caught in the crossfire. This wasn't just a legal mess. It was a PR nightmare cultivated by two powerful figures and their even more powerful friends in the entertainment industry. But what really turned up the heat was the revelation that Taylor Swift's name had been casually dropped in Blake's text messages. Baldoni's legal team argued that Blake had intentionally invoked Taylor's global influence to intimidate him, leveraging her superstar platform as an unspoken threat. The twist: Taylor had absolutely no clue her name was being used like this. She wasn't involved in the production. She wasn't giving feedback on scripts or weighing in on creative decisions. But the mere fact that her name had been inserted into this narrative without her knowledge or consent left her horrified. Sources close to Taylor revealed she was deeply shaken when she discovered how her reputation was being used as leverage in someone else's war. And just when she thought she could quietly step back, it got worse. Subpoenas were issued as the legal drama ballooned into something resembling a high-budget thriller. Both sides started preparing for a showdown in court. Suddenly, names like Taylor Swift, Ryan Reynolds, and even Hugh Jackman were being tossed around as potential witnesses. Taylor's team went into full crisis mode, doing everything they could to keep her from being dragged onto the stand. But the reality was hard to ignore. If Blake's legal team pushed for it, Taylor could be forced into the courtroom, and if that happened, she'd be walking a dangerous tightrope, torn between loyalty and truth, knowing full well that every word she uttered would be dissected, analyzed, and headline material within minutes. Meanwhile, Blake's image continued to crumble. The legal battle wasn't just threatening her career. It was threatening to erase everything she had built. And with talk that damages for Baldoni could soar into the hundreds of millions, the stakes weren't just personal. They were monumental. This was no longer a private matter. It had exploded into a full-blown public spectacle. And as more details surfaced, the narrative around Blake Lively began to shift. People started to question her true motives. Was she a woman bravely standing up against mistreatment in a male-dominated industry? Or was she manipulating the situation, leveraging her influence to control a project she had allegedly hijacked? The internet was sharply divided. Some fans applauded her, hailing her as courageous for confronting a powerful director. Others weren't convinced, interpreting her actions as strategic, even desperate, to maintain control in a crumbling situation. Then came the ripple effect across the industry. Cast members from It Ends With Us began speaking out, while a few, like Jenny Slate, publicly supported Blake. Others were noticeably quiet, or worse, subtly critical. Behind the scenes, whispers about Blake's on-set behavior started growing louder. Directors and producers who once lined up to work with her were now thinking twice. The lawsuit had made her a liability, and in an industry built on quiet alliances and mutual discretion, no one wanted to become the next Justin Baldoni, caught in a feud that could hijack their entire project. What made things even messier were leaked internal court filings that revealed just how fractured the working relationship between Blake and Justin really was. One deposition, in particular, sent shockwaves. A production assistant testified about a closed-door meeting that spiraled into a full-blown confrontation. According to the testimony, Blake left in tears, accusing Justin of sabotaging her every move, while Justin allegedly shot back, calling her unprofessional and impossible to work with. Though unverified, the story made headlines. Tabloids latched onto the idea of a toxic set and a power struggle gone nuclear, and the fallout didn't stop there. Online commentary exploded. Have you been following the Justin Baldoni Blake Lively thing? People asked in disbelief. She's wrecked her reputation, and now Ryan Reynolds is tangled in it too. Reports began circulating that Ryan was trying to quietly distance himself from the lawsuit, but Blake's opponents weren't letting him off the hook. "You're a key part of this," they insisted. In a last-ditch effort to control the narrative, Blake's legal team filed a motion to block certain evidence from being used in court, arguing it was misleading and irrelevant. Among the contested materials, behind-the-scenes footage that could paint an even bleaker picture of what really went down on set. Baldoni's legal team argued that newly surfaced behind-the-scenes footage would prove Blake Lively's alleged attempts to seize control over the film's production. One particular clip, according to sources, showed Blake interrupting Baldoni during a rehearsal, demanding changes to a critical scene as the crew stood by in uncomfortable silence. Baldoni's lawyers described the moment as a smoking gun, calling it clear evidence that Blake had overstepped her role as an actress. Blake's team, however, dismissed the footage as misleading and taken entirely out of context. They accused Baldoni of cherry-picking isolated incidents to construct a narrative that cast Blake in a negative light. In a rare move, the presiding judge issued a public reprimand to both parties, criticizing them for turning the courtroom into a media circus. The statement came shortly after another leak, this time involving internal Sony emails. The messages revealed studio executives expressing deep concern over the escalating feud. One particularly damning email suggested that future collaborations with either Blake or Baldoni were now uncertain, as their public fallout had not only damaged the film's prospects, but also threatened the reputations of those associated with it. Despite the judge's warning, both camps continued to take their fight to the press. Legal filings became more aggressive. Anonymous sources flooded tabloids with insider accounts. Meanwhile, Taylor Swift and Ryan Reynolds, along with others in their circle, were involuntarily dragged deeper into the chaos. Taylor's team even issued a cease and desist letter, demanding an end to what they described as a harassing and retaliatory online campaign targeting her through her association with Blake. For Baldoni, the stakes couldn't be higher. His countersuit wasn't just about defending his name, it was about saving his career. He claimed that Blake's allegations had severely damaged his reputation in an industry that is increasingly unforgiving of any hint of misconduct. His lawyers framed the situation as a strategic smear campaign designed to redirect blame away from Blake and place it squarely on him. Although he denied all accusations, the public had already formed strong opinions, and the narrative was spiraling. As the trial date approached, tensions between the two sides reached a boiling point. Blake's lawyers moved to dismiss Baldoni's countersuit, labeling it retaliatory and baseless. Baldoni's team shot back, accusing Blake of trying to silence him and manipulate public perception. The war of words, both in court and in the media, intensified by the day, adding to the drama. The judge once again stepped in during a pre-trial hearing, urging both parties to stop leaking information and making public statements that could influence the jury. But it seemed too late. The damage to reputations had already been done, and public interest was only growing. Speculation ran wild, with fans and industry insiders debating who was telling the truth. Baldoni's legal team hinted at even more explosive evidence, emails, and unreleased footage they claimed would exonerate him. Blake's team, on the other hand, doubled down on their argument that Baldoni was using the countersuit as a smokescreen to distract from his own conduct. And throughout it all, Taylor Swift remained silent, though her name continued to circulate. In connection with the case, she refused to engage publicly. likely on the advice of her legal team. This was no longer just a legal dispute. It had become a high-stakes war between two major Hollywood figures, with careers, reputations, and powerful friendships hanging in the balance. Would Blake be able to restore her image and move forward? Could Baldoni prove he had been unfairly targeted? And what about Taylor? Would she eventually speak out or remain on the sidelines, hoping to avoid further fallout? One thing was certain. This story wasn't even close to over.